Welcome to Pound for Pound ATL, arguably the best place to get facts and opinions on your Atlanta Falcons. And absolutely the best place to get your opinions in. The guys are here, the chat is ready, and the conversation starts now.
What's going on, football fans? It's me, J.R. Clark, back again with another rendition of the Pound for Pound Live. We doing it old school today.
Yes, sir.
just me and my guy, Toby D. Jimmy his wife surprised him with a trip to Chicago, and today is Mike's birthday, so he's out celebrating. So y'all make sure y'all get on Mike Dove's Twitter and wish him a happy birthday. But yeah, we figure we're gonna do this one old school today, and just come at you with me and Toby D. What's going on, Toby?
Man, it feels kind of awkward, man, because we haven't been together by ourselves in so long.
It's been a minute.
We kind of got to get back in the groove again, man.
Yeah, no, it has definitely been a minute, and on a week that isn't necessarily like banging with like a ton of news or a ton of popping stuff, but there is some things to talk about. It seems like the ever-present QB controversy that hasn't really even gotten going, but has gotten going, is ramped up yet again. There for a while, it looked like the fan base was going to be more than happy with, Kyle Pitts at 4. But with the advent, like this year, we have multiple pro days for the same people because you don't have the combine this year. So some of these guys are putting on, multiple pro days, and as you could tell with the title and the the thumbnail I used, today was Justin Fields' second pro day. Now we had let's see, do you remember, they made a big deal, people were making a big deal about who the Falcons sent up to Ohio to watch this, and I'm going to see if I can try to find it. Do you remember who they sent up there?
Yeah, you ain't got to find it because I can tell you by heart. So DeJuan Jones, who was just hired by the Atlanta Falcons, the assistant college scouting, director of college scouting. You had Dave Brock, the wide receivers coach, and Charles London, the quarterbacks coach.
Right, okay.
That was up there. Yeah.
So, that being said, they didn't send... Okay, people were making a big deal about the college scout that went up there. When I first saw that, I was like, okay, so Terry Fontenot, Arthur Smith, and Dave Ragone, they didn't make the trip the second time. And I thought that was interesting, but people seem to think it was more interesting to have more guys getting an eye on Justin Fields. And it'll be more telling come Monday when Trey Lance has his pro day.
Yeah.
He'll have his second pro day on Monday. So if the same delegation that went to Justin Fields' pro day today, if they go and see Lance on Monday, then it's an even wash, right? It's an even keel. We're still in the same, boat we were in, right?
Yeah.
And what I think that is, something else that as we are trying to decipher all this, I'm trying to put things into context. And one thing that I keep thinking about is this is the first time these guys are in this position. What I mean by that, this is the first time Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot are calling the shots, right? They've been a part of, organizations for a long time, whether New Orleans and Tennessee. They've seen how the process works, but and I know that when you're watching somebody else do it, you think to yourself, all right, if I'm ever to find myself in that position, this is how I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We all do that. We do it at work all day long. We look at our bosses or we look at our, positions that we want and say, okay, if I ever end up in that position, this is how I'm going to do it. Right? So they walk in the door, find themselves in a peculiar position of having the 4th overall pick in a QB top-heavy draft class.
Yeah.
So, with a QB that is at a pivotal point in his career, or not a pivotal point, but is at the top of the hill, so to speak, right? You got, Matt Ryan as much as we love him, he's at the top of the hill looking down. He could
Right.
start driving off at any moment, right? We all know this to be true with a 36-year-old quarterback. So Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith find themselves in an interesting position. Why wouldn't you be part of the process and go look at every quarterback and go look at every top prospect? How many business deals are made on a golf course instead of a business room? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Instead of an office. So not only are you going to see top prospects, you're also going to interact with other people who are at your level in other organizations.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I will say this now. From what I heard for Tony Pauline, and I listen to him quite often. I'll be listening to him tonight after this show.
There you go.
As a matter of fact, and probably ask a question or two representing pound for pound. He did mention that this is the final week of draft meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So that may be one of the reasons why you didn't see either Arthur Smith or Terry Fontenot show up. Now, next week, interestingly enough, there won't be any more draft meetings. So they will be free if they chose to go to Trey Lance's second pro day. I'm just saying.
No.
So,
and that's true. And that's something else to consider. That's why I say we'll figure out come Monday if it is a deal of, okay, I'm head boss. Y'all are my underlings. I need y'all to get the experience as well, because we've already heard it said many times, we don't want no yes men. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so, are they sending this delegation out to let them get their proverbial feet wet in the, pro day circuit and that kind of stuff? This is the kind of stuff that nobody's bringing up and nobody's talking about.
Right.
Like, everybody is trying to force feed all this stuff through a football filter. And I get it. I understand. As we all should. But I tend to try to look at things differently with a different perspective. And for a lot of these guys, this is the first time they've ever been in the position that they're in.
Yeah.
Okay. And being, or given the amount of responsibility that they're being given inside of an organization. So when you're giving these people this kind of, responsibility, or you're in a new position, you need to go experience it.
Right.
When I started driving for the company that I work for, the first day or two, I sat in the passenger seat. Third day, I'm behind the wheel driving. The experience changed as the responsibility grew,
Right.
And so I'm not saying that that's what they're doing. It was just something that I was thinking about. It was something that I was thinking on. And go ahead. No, go ahead.
I mean, and I will say this too. For every assistant, there is the actual overhead of that assistant. And his name is Aaron Robinson, who is the director of college scouting, who was not there, by the way. So I just want to throw that out there, because yes, the assistant was there. And yes, the assistant also has some experience being with Ozzie Newsome, as both guys have been in with the Ravens before. So going with the best player available philosophy, and you're coming from someone who has been doing very well in that area, of course you will get sent out there to arguably one of the best players in this draft.
Right. And nobody's as far as this draft is concerned, I haven't really, I guess I have seen it. So let's go ahead and talk about it. Anybody who is doubting the actual talent of Justin Fields and Trey Lance is mind-boggling to me. Now, there's things that you can bring up as a concern, which Johnson ATL already said. Lance played 17 games in Division II. He's saying no thanks. Okay, well, Justin Fields, if I'm not mistaken, and somebody in the chat can correct me, I meant to pull this stat before we got started, but Justin Fields has played a little over a 16-game season. You know what I'm saying? So if you're talking about starting, right, as the starting position, he has one full season and 7 games this past season. So that's still not a ton of experience. So if you want to put a knock on either one of these two guys, you can say that they got, both of them have lacking in experience as far as playing, live games or playing big moment games, right? You could say that Fields played exceptionally well against Clemson, but did he expend too much and then didn't have it for Alabama? You see what I'm saying? Like got too not emotionally, but got too ramped up for Clemson, and then didn't have it, in the Alabama game, right? So, but to see people questioning Fields, like how often did he make his progressions? I think that's silly. You can watch the tape and see him make, the different reads. Right. I've seen him do it multiple times in the same game. So the idea that he was a one read and go quarterback is silly to me. And then the same thing with Lance. Saying that Lance can only run is silly to me. That was my initial worry, right? When it looked like we were going to be picking real high, and I started doing when I started up the Falcon Eye View again, I started it with Trey Lance. And I went into that film study wanting to say I didn't want a running quarterback. Like I didn't want necessarily, a Lamar Jackson-esque quarterback who seems to want to run more than he wants to throw. That's not what Lance is. That's not what I saw. Yeah, he ran a lot, but he ran when he had to. He didn't look to run first. Like you could tell it was a design run. You see what I'm saying? It didn't look like he was just looking to run, which is a difference to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how this all goes down between what the Falcons are going to do, because as it stands today, we still don't know what the HE double hockey sticks the Falcons are going to do. And they're still in a great position. And by them mixing it up like they've been doing, you don't know what's going on and what they're going to do.
There ain't a clue at all about like what they're actually, going to try to do. As far as, this draft goes, this draft's concerned. Now, the fan base itself, as it always been, the fan base itself is greatly divided on what we should do. And we've seen that play out quite a bit on Twitter, quite a bit on in our own chat rooms and stuff like that. But it's something that I've noticed here lately. The people who, and I put this tweet out there, the people that accuse people like myself, and maybe that's why I pay attention to it, who want to keep Matt Ryan entrenched as our starter, at least for the next 2-3 years. They claim that we like Matt Ryan more than we like Atlanta Falcons. Like we are a bigger fan of Matt Ryan than we are of the Atlanta Falcons. Well, I'll argue that a lot of the people who want to draft a Justin Fields or a Trey Lance seem to be a bigger fan of Justin Fields and Trey Lance than they are of the Falcons. At the end of the day, what I want my team to do is win.
Exactly. Win. Just win, baby.
That's it. I said something to a friend of mine many years ago. I said, as a fan, what you can expect of, or to me, what I feel like you have the right to expect of your team is to be relevant.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I want my Falcons to be. My Falcons for the past 3 years have not been relevant, and I have not liked it. Okay? At this junction, if you tell me, JR, to be relevant again, to be in the conversation again, you're going to have to get rid of Matt Ryan. If you guarantee me that, dude, I'll pack his bag. Because at the end of the day, that's what I want. I want my team to be relevant. Straight up. But to me, in my opinion, Matt Ryan helps them be relevant. The problems that I have seen with this team don't necessarily start with number 2. You see what I'm saying? So the supposed love that I have for Matt Ryan is not bigger than the team. It is because I believe he gives the team the best chance to win. Because I honestly don't believe, yes, Justin Fields or Trey Lance may be the future of this team. But right now, coming in this year, in this draft, they don't help my team win. And that's what I want. I want my team to win, flat out. Like, so I am staunchly in the camp of trade down and let's build this defense. Because I see the defensive side of the ball being the biggest weakness.
Yeah.
So if we can strengthen this defense with some solid players, and this draft looks like it has a draft full of solid defensive players. I'm not saying superstars, but I'm just saying solid defensive players. If we can stockpile some picks and get some solid defensive players to bolster this defense that Dean Pease is coming in to take over, I feel like that gives us the best chance to be competitive this year and going forward.
Right.
What's a Justin Fields going to do if he has to play behind every game? Because his defense is a Swiss cheese. We've been watching that.
Yeah.
We've been watching that since 2008. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I just don't, look, Matt Ryan, like Rich McKay and Arthur Blank said, they want a short-term, mid-term, and a long-term goal for the team and how to sustain a winnable culture. And right now, you have to start it with Matt Ryan. Now, if we draft a QB at number 4, it's Justin Fields, Trey Lance, and they come in here and they can outright beat Matt Ryan out of the spot.
Have at it.
Hey, if they're going to help us win, let's go.
Let's do it.
Let's go. Now, I'm still on the Kyle Pitts train,
right?
Because I still believe we should support and build around Matt Ryan, but nobody wants to hear supporting a 36-year-old quarterback with more weapons because they feel, quote unquote, we already have enough weapons. And since we keep signing tight ends, there's no possible spot for Kyle Pitts left. But this is BPA, right?
Right.
So it doesn't matter what the strength of the position is. If you're choosing the best player of the draft, which I believe Kyle Pitts is second and probably first ahead of Trevor Lawrence. If Trevor Lawrence won the quarterback, I think Kyle Pitts takes that spot number 1. That's my BPA, and that's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. Like, all right, so we've got our 20 minutes of opening salvo. We're going to get into the chat, and then we're going to get into whatever topics we feel like getting into. But I want to get into that tight end thing here in just a minute because it's something I've been thinking on. But all right, so let's just jump into chat. King7 says, P for P, let's get it. What's going on, King? We're glad you are in here. Same thing with Bradley Burnett and Breezy. Same with Paul Mack and ATM. We appreciate all y'all being here. Ghost Pepper, thank you for joining us tonight. Like I said, we're going to do this one a little old school tonight. Bradley says, Pitts at 4 overall? Question mark. What do y'all think? Doesn't seem like anyone wants to trade with us, to be honest. Well, we don't know yet. Like, if you want to take as far as like trade values into account, look at how many different teams were at Justin Fields Pro Day today.
Yep.
Detroit was there. Patriots were there. Washington was there. You see what I'm saying? So don't think right. Denver was there. So don't think that we out of the trade market yet. Myself. Let's see. ATL Paris says, at this point, let's just take Pitts at 4 and Najee at 35. Dude, if it plays out that way, I'll be happy with it. You can give me Pitts at 4 and Najee or Javonte Williams or Travis Etienne. Like, you can give me any one of those at 35. And
fans ain't going to be trying to hear that. 2 offensive players.
Hey, look, I know they ain't going to hear it, but I'll take it all day long. I will take it all day long. Let's see. Floyd says, draft gonna rock. It says, we just signed Cordell Patterson. If that's true, look out. I haven't seen any official yet on Cordell Patterson. We saw that he was visiting and that he was expected to sign. So I haven't seen anything official come out from the team itself or any of the news breakers, the Ian Rappaports and Schefters and all those guys. So we'll wait. I got Twitter open on my other screen, so if it breaks, we'll let you know. I'll even do a sounder. I'm like, do. No, just all right. Let's see here. Keith Weaver says Trey fits Atlanta's new offense. We're gonna get into that here in just a minute, there, Keith. That's something else I've been thinking of when we talking about like fits and stuff like that. I want to go through some more of these comments first. So people are bringing up names like Felipe Franks and Kellen Mond. Look, I'm gonna say it flat out. If you're not gonna take a quarterback in the first round, I'll take an unsigned, undrafted free agent. Because the history tells you that trying to develop a later round quarterback into a starter just doesn't really ever work. First round is where you're going to find for the most part. Even that's a hard sell. Finding a starting quarterback to begin with, and trying to find one outside of the first round is even harder. So, like I said, if we don't draft one in the first round, I'll take one in the 5th, 6th, undrafted. At that point, it doesn't matter to me. At that point, to me, it's Ryan is your entrenched starter, and I just need somebody who can hold a clipboard and do what Ryan asked him to do.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Falcons draft 2 quarterbacks to sit behind Matt Ryan and allow him to teach him in that quarterback room with, Charles London, the QB coach, and stuff like that. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
I got a guy that I've been talking about recently that's been on been on my radar, and it's Zach Thomas from Appalachian State. I think this guy could be a sneaker if we stick with all 3 of our 5th round picks, because he's projected to go somewhere in there to the 7th round.
Okay.
So he's definitely a guy we'll keep an eye on.
Where'd
the Falcons move?
Where'd you say he played at?
Appalachian
State. Okay, I'll have to check into that. Those lower tier guys, the ones that have impressed me has been Sam Ehlinger, who could come in and give you something like a Taysom Hill-esque off the bench, and outside of that maybe a Sam Bouchel, I think is his name, Sam Bouchel, out of SMU. He's got a good arm, but like stereotypical statue of a quarterback. So,
okay.
But anyway, all right. So let's see where are we at. Speed Falcon for life. Well, what's going on, Speed? Glad to see you in here tonight. He says if we're going to draft a QB, take Fields if available. Look, right now, honestly, it's Fields or Lance. To me, they're 1A, 1B. As far as that goes, if that's who you decide to go with, take him. I don't want to see him anywhere near the field this year. I think both of them could do with some time learning the game from a pro level, learning that type of preparation, so on and so forth. Just getting acclimated in that aspect. So either one of those would be fine with me if we go that route. Let's see. Speed Falcon says we need defense, man. I agree. Like I that's where I want my draft capital spent this year, is on the defense. It has been heavily depleted. You have lost both your starting safeties. You don't have much of an edge presence that you're really like confident in. Outside of Grady Jarrett, you don't have a defensive line that you're necessarily confident in. So, that's where I want my draft capital spent. But I'm just an idiot on the other side of a microphone, right? So, what do I know? Anyway, all right. Fred Butt says, I think Sewell or Pitts will be our pick. The offensive line is not getting a ton of love, like as far as the possibility of picking, 4th overall.
That's because it's not as strong.
Right.
It's not as strong that high. And Sewell has been thrown in there in the top 5, and to me, rightfully so. But now Slater's starting to really sneak up on him.
Yeah, I was going to bring up Slater. I'm glad you did.
Draft.
Yeah, he's starting to really get noticed a lot more.
Yeah.
No, Mr. Nice Guy. That's an interesting name you got there. Says I want Pitts, but I feel like we need Sewell. But is Terry Fontenot thinking QB? That was like some of the reports, right, earlier coming out, that Fontenot was wanting a QB, that Arthur Smith was wanting to stick with Matt Ryan. Now you have reports coming out that they're more in lockstep now. I think that just happened because people thought that they were at odds, so they had to bring up another. Oh no, we're good. You know, but reports coming out that Arthur Smith really likes Trey Lance. So right now, you're going to get anything and everything.
And we're getting it.
Right, and we are getting it for sure. We are getting it.
Yeah.
When somebody said this is lion season right now, and we are getting it big time. Let's see. Wheezy B says if we draft a quarterback, then our new regime believes this roster's windows to contend is closed, and they're looking for ways to move on from the old regime and bring in their guys starting with a QB. You are dead on. This draft, in my opinion, will tell you what this regime thinks about this team. Flat out.
Exactly. And it will.
If they take a quarterback, not saying that they don't believe in Matt Ryan, I'm saying that they don't think this roster can contend.
Yep.
And so, therefore, they're going to rebuild. And that's, look, I know this is going to sound so controversial after everything else I've been talking all day. That's fine if that's what they think needs to happen. This is what we hired them for, to do a job. If they have assessed it and found everything lacking and think to themselves, there is nothing we can do, we need to hit the TNT plunger, blow it up, and start over, then do it.
Okay, but if you're going to blow it up, Rich McKay, don't put stuff out there saying you believe y'all can win in 2021. Period. Stop referencing and comparing us to the 2018 after that debacle in 2007 with Mike Vick and when y'all got rid of a lot of players like D'Angelo Hall and all of them and Algie Crumpler and all of them and comparing us to that. Okay, now I know they're not going to openly just come out and say we're in rebuild mode, but like you said, this draft is going to tell us where Terry and Arthur truly see this team moving forward.
No, period. Exactly. 100. And I've been saying that from Jump Street. One of my big indicators was like the things that I was looking at. Like going into this, we knew we were, because of COVID, we knew we were in, cap hell per se. And so knowing what they were going, like looking at what they did with the numbers was going to tell me something, was going to start to paint the picture. You noticed at this junction, they have not messed with Julio Jones' contract at all. When it came to cap restructure, it didn't take them long to then restructure Matt Ryan's contract. I don't care who you are and what you think, that says something. That says that if they don't come away with a quarterback in this draft, they're okay with that. Right. I understand all you cap whizzes out there are going to tell me that, after the end of next year with a June 1st designation and all this other stuff, we can free up money and get, bigger, get relief, especially if the cap starts to go back up with a new TV deal. I get all that. I understand all that. But by doing this, by restructuring the contract of Matt Ryan, that says something to me. That says that at the end of the day, you're okay with keeping him as your quarterback. Right. I mean, am I wrong for thinking that?
Oh, I mean, you're giving yourself that 2-3 year window. If you don't take a QB right now, or at least not in the first round, to see what you can find, whether that's be a veteran, or a rookie. Right. You're giving yourself those options to be able to do that. Right. That window is what that serves. Now, Julio Jones, like I said, I always thought that when Arthur Smith came, I think Arthur Smith deserves every right to get a chance to see what he can do with Julio Jones. But if things start to go south, I can easily see at the trade deadline. Just like they did Mohamed Sanu when they brought in Calvin Ridley. If we go a receiver route and it's working out and Julio Jones is starting to become a non-factor, I can see a situation where there could be some talks in mid-season about Julio Jones joining another team.
I can see a scenario that you could move Jones before the season even starts.
And you could.
Like,
yeah.
to me,
You could.
We talk about moving players and doing all this other jazz. Jones, because you haven't touched his contract, so you're okay with eating the dead money and everything else. Like, as far as the implications, all that stuff, I could easily envision a scenario where you move Jones on draft night.
Yep, it's possible.
And so that's like especially to a team like the one that makes sense to me. Somebody brought up another team that I saw earlier today that I'll bring up, but the team that I've been thinking about is the Baltimore Ravens. They were extremely aggressive, or tried to be extremely aggressive, all throughout free agency about signing a big-time receiver. And nobody wanted to sign with them. They ended up signing Sammy Watkins, but I think that was after the rest of his market wasn't there. So I'm not advocating to trade Jones. I'm just saying it's a scenario that I could see happening. Especially with the emergence of Calvin Ridley. If you take somebody like a Kyle Pitts and you have a Hayden Hurst, these are like, there's only so many footballs on a field, so to speak,
That can go around,
exactly.
right?
So, I mean, that's just something I thought about there. Let's get back into the chat real quick. We're going to go back with Speed Falcon says, so I got to ask y'all this question. Let's say we draft a QB at 4 and then sits behind Matt Ryan. Then Matt Ryan wins the MVP in 2020 or 2021. You trading him in 2022? That's the thing. I mean, if you want to look at scenarios, you could look at Kansas City with Alex Smith, right? That's probably closest that you're going to have. They traded up, drafted Mahomes. Good Lord, my mind went blank. Drafted Mahomes. They had just come off. They had been competing. And Alex Smith had been to multiple Pro Bowls. He was not necessarily the problem. They traded him to Washington.
But he was getting them over the hump, and that was the thing. They were going to the playoffs, and I think what really killed it for Alex Smith is when they blew that game against the Indianapolis Colts after having a huge lead.
Yep.
They had a huge lead in that playoff game, and I think that really put the nail in the coffin for Alex Smith, and they had to go and make a move with another quarterback because we couldn't get him over the hump.
I agree there. Somebody made a mention about wanting to know what characters were on my shirt. This is the old school Avengers. So everybody who was in the Avengers, this is just their like old school version. Their original version. So it's Ant-Man, Black Panther, Hulk, all of them. So that's who is on my shirt. I saw that pop up more than once, so I want to go ahead and let everybody know who was there. All right, William Warren says, Matt Ryan had 13 tries at a championship. It's unfortunate that the team couldn't get it done. It's time to give the next QB a shot as soon as possible. I mean, yeah, that's the feeling that a lot of people have. I'm not going to discount your opinion, but to hang those 13 tries on just Matt Ryan when this game is the ultimate team sport, right? And something I was bringing up to a coworker earlier today. Matt Ryan's had one top 10 defense. I'm not saying you got to have a top 10 defense to win, but it sure does help, right? When you're not having to throw the ball 80 times a game on a consistent basis, if you have something that resembles a run game and a decent defense, it makes it, a little easier, so to speak, on your QB. But that's, like I said, that's just my opinion. Let's see here. Breezy says Pitts is too good at his position day one to pass up. There are others. Sewell, yeah. I mean, if Pitts is sitting there, they got a tough decision. If they're sitting there at 4, and you got both Kyle Pitts, Justin Fields, and Trey Lance, man, I don't want to be in that. I would not be the one to be wanting to make that decision.
I don't want no parts of that.
I mean, my Lord, that's going to be. That'd be tough.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, that
would be tough.
If San Francisco,
because the value.
Go ahead.
When you look at the value of those players, they're not really that much of a difference as far as the value goes. So you take any one of those players could benefit you. Like I said, I would love to have Kyle Pitts. I really would. But I can understand if they go for a QB like a Lance or Fields, because even though they may not start that first year, don't mean they're not going to see the field at some capacity in my mind. They will still be used as a weapon their first couple of years.
Yeah. No, I think that's always a possibility. And like I said, Father Time hits quarterbacks in difference. Like, Ryan could come out and have a solid year this year and then next year fall off a cliff. I mean, you kind of saw it with Phillip Rivers. They moved over to Justin Herbert. Phillip Rivers signed a 2-year contract with Indy and just didn't play well and walked away from it. Said, all right, I'm done.
Yeah.
And so, it could come out of nowhere, or you could be like a Tom Brady and play well into your 40s. It just all depends on you,
Yeah.
So King 7 says, I truly agree. They both should sit and learn, talking about the quarterbacks. Anonymous says, we like crabs with no claws right now. Oh, we're like crabs with no claws. Okay, well, I guess that's pointless. No, okay. Bad joke. Anyway, let's see. No, Mr. Nice Guy, he's speaking my language over here. He's talking about Ramondre Stevenson in the third solves our running game. I like Stevenson a lot. There's no real good reason why I like him as much as I do, other than he's a big back. I like the way he blocks. That gets a running back on the field early in his career, and he is the closest thing you have to Derrick Henry in this draft. And I don't think he's Derrick Henry, but as far as somebody who is strong and going to run somebody over, that's, if you're trying to recreate, which I guess we can go ahead and get into that thought process. If you're trying to recreate what you had in Tennessee, Ramondre is the closest that you're going to get to Derrick Henry in this draft class. But that does bring up an interesting point. We all automatically assume that Arthur Smith is trying to recreate what he had in Tennessee. And I don't know if that's a correct assumption to have. It's something you brought up. He's only brought one coach with him from Tennessee. One.
That's it.
That is unusual. That is very unusual for a coach. And as far as I know, he hasn't brought any player from Tennessee.
Nope.
And he's had some chances to sign some lower level guys. I know we ain't had a ton of money, but all these no-name tight ends that we keep signing or trading for, the Lee Smiths of the world, the Ryan whatever this last tight end that we just signed,
Ryan
Bechter or whatever.
Bechter, something like that.
Either way, you could have brought in Mecole Pruitt is still out on the wire, so to speak. He's had some visits, but he ain't signed with nobody. And Mecole Pruitt ain't commanding a ton of money. So you could have signed him by now. You could have signed early in the drafting or free agent process. You could have signed a Fisker, or not? Was it Fisker? It was one of the other blocking tight ends that they had up there that I was keeping my eye on. You could have signed him. He ended up going to Buffalo, I believe. So you haven't brought any players from your previous stop. You have only brought one coach from your previous stop. Are we absolutely sure that Arthur Smith is trying to recreate what he had in Tennessee?
And that guy really, he's an offensive assistant. He's only going to be helping Arthur Smith prepare how he calls the game with the downs and distances and stuff and what he likes to do there. And that's what he's here to help do. Him and Dave Ragone, of course, with the game plan, they will be heavily involved in helping him with that so that he can keep, be able to manage the whole team as a whole in all three phases. But he's not really anybody that's real significant as a coach. You know what I'm saying? He's there to assist Arthur Smith, and that's it.
And so that leads me to wonder, how much is Arthur Smith trying to recreate what he had in Tennessee? We're looking at what he did in Tennessee with Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill as the offense that he wants to run. But there's no necessarily evidence of that. The reason why I liked Arthur Smith right out the gate and why I did a coach's show on him was I felt like he was a guy who could adapt to the roster that he had. Because I felt like that's what he did. Now, I ain't got no basis for any of this. I ain't got nobody saying nothing to me. I'm just, what I'm observing is I felt like that's what he did in Tennessee. Is that he looked at what he had and was like, okay, I have a mediocre to good quarterback. He started off with Mariota. And then they switched to Tannehill, okay, when Mariota wasn't necessarily getting it done. So you have a decent quarterback in Tannehill who's good at a few things, which is play action passing and bootlegs, that kind of stuff. And you have Derrick Henry, who before Matt LaFleur took over, people were truly considering Derrick Henry a bust. Like those, I heard those talks that if you got to Derrick Henry before he got going, you'd stop him. Like he wasn't nothing. So what did Arthur Smith do? He developed a game plan, a scheme that absolutely benefited those two guys. A Tannehill and a Henry. And what'd you do? Produce a 2,000-yard rusher in Henry and a competent quarterback in Tannehill. Yep. So you're trying to tell me, I've seen the arguments all over Twitter. Oh, well, Matt Ryan is not as mobile as Ryan Tannehill, so therefore these two guys are going to be better for the offense. How do you know that's exactly what Arthur Smith wants to do? There's only one guy I know of that's in the NFL that is truly predicated off of needing a mobile running quarterback, and that's Greg Roman of San Francisco, Buffalo, and now Baltimore.
Because he's always had it.
And when he has been successful in the NFL, it's when he's had a mobile quarterback. You can't say that about Arthur Smith as of yet. Now, if he comes in, look, he could shut me up real quick. If he comes in and starts running the exact same type of offense, he could shut me up real quick. But I feel like he's more of a guy who is able to switch up what he's doing. You done brought it up so many times that maybe you infected my brain, maybe. But he's done coaching so many different styles of offense, that he can pull from anything, anywhere.
He sure can, and I believe that's exactly what he's going to do. And like I told you before, I think knowing because him and Matt Ryan have ran so many offenses together, that is a dangerous combination. And I'm talking about in a good way. You're talking about expanding the volume of that playbook. You can become whatever offense that caters to the weaknesses of that defense you want to. And you have a guy that should be able to help you execute any of that at a high level.
Exactly. Stu the Pepperhead done tipped us $20 because Stu really likes us. He is our friend. He said, lunch on me tomorrow, guys. Thank you for lunch tomorrow. He says, trade back PS2 in the first and load up on needs and values in rounds 2 and 3. A hyperbolic plethora of playable pugists. Trying to get me to.
Y'all get the dictionary out.
Anyway, he said, thanks always, rise up. Thank you very much, Stu. We very much appreciate that. But he brings up a point, something we've been talking about. You can trade out of this pick and still come away with needs, holes filled, things of that nature, that would be very useful, obviously. But, again, we're not in charge, right? Joseph Thornton says, what do y'all think about Cordell Patterson talk? Okay, I might have been a little harsher earlier today while I was at work on our group chat. I said that Cordell Patterson reminded me of the Devin Hester. And what I mean by that is we signed Devin Hester at the end of his career, Basically just a return guy who played for Chicago. Same deal if we end up signing Cordell Patterson. It almost feels like the Todd Gurley, Steven Jackson. Like, I don't want to sign another running back that has previously played for the Rams ever again.
No, let's cut them ties
right.
off.
And so
Dimitrov is gone. No more business with Les
none. So, look, if it ends up being true, Cordell Patterson is probably the most electric return man in the NFL right now as we speak. So I would champion it. And if Arthur Smith can, get him working in on some gadget type plays coming out of the backfield or what have you, I'm all for it. Guys got speed, guys got moves. I think it's a deal, if it goes through, is very much on brand of what we have been doing this offseason. So, Ghost Pepper says at some point the Falcons have to take the defensive side of the ball seriously, just like they seemingly on the other side. It's time to write the ledger. Right. Somebody brought it up earlier. Like, you can't seem to think that they drug Dean Pease out of retirement and then go hand him a bunch of warm bodies. Like, if you're Dean Pease, why are you coming out of retirement to deal with a bunch of warm bodies? And
he called Smith, by the way. He reached out to Arthur Smith about the opportunity.
Right. So, there's something on this line or on this defense that he sees.
He sees something.
He sees something that we don't. And it could be, a Marlon Davison or a Kaminsky. I don't know what he sees, but he sees something. Tony Wright, absolutely P for P. ATL, Jimmy and Mike. Traditionally, I take that Thursday and Friday off and watch the entire draft through the weekend. I will be there. I hope all y'all are there. We got some stuff coming down the pipeline for that. Some announcements that we're gonna make that night. I think I've got at least one pound for pound hat I'm gonna give away that night. We may do some other giveaways throughout the draft. We're just gonna have to see how that goes, but yeah, we're going to try to have some fun. I had a lot of fun last year doing it. Now I got my guys back as far as, a year in doing this streaming stuff. I understand a lot more about what I'm doing from home now more than I did last year this time. Because that was about the time we really got in, because that's about the time COVID kicked off. We got, grounded to our houses. And so that forced us to, change our tactics, right? So I appreciate all y'all learning with us, as we've gone through this whole process. But yeah, this draft party is going to be a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to that. We're about 2 weeks out, which is great. Wow. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Tomorrow makes 2 weeks. 2 weeks from tomorrow, it'll be 7:45. We will be going live. And dude, I am totally pumped for that. The King 83 says talented guys that will be available in rounds 2, 3, and 4. Not to mention that we get next year. I think he's talking about trading back. I love Kyle Pitts, but value wise, I'd rather go with a tight end, Kenny Yabo out of Ole Miss. There's some Kyle Pitts has outshined every tight end, but there's some solid tight ends in this draft. There's absolutely some solid tight ends in this draft. But yes, Kyle Pitts has outshined like everybody, and is like, it's almost like trying to see another, like a flashlight when you have, a high-powered floodlight shining in your face. You can't see that flashlight, and that's what it is with Kyle Pitts. He is arguably the best player in this draft that just happens to play tight end. So, Wallace Smith says, P said that our team is young and they like to hit, and he's never coached a young team that likes to hit. So, exactly. There are things that I think P sees in guys like a Michael Walker and a Foye Oluokun and Deion Jones and Jalen Hawkins. If you want to know what is my concern is the defense, obviously. But I think with the right coaching and added pieces, it could be, a solid part of this team. So that's my, let's see, where are we at here?
I think they are really expecting Dean Pease to really come through on that side of the ball. One reason because they can't afford any big time players like that, and they really hoping that Dean Pease can really cook up something to cause these guys to overachieve, so to speak.
Oh yeah, it could be. I mean, look, it happens all the time. Like coaches come in and get guys to overachieve all day long, So, but that's a coach's job, is to make that happen. Is to get these guys to run through the proverbial wall. King Kell says the ability to throw to a double wide receiver goes unnoticed now, and he's talking to Atlnata. Julio could do much better throwing to himself. Okay, I think they're having a different conversation. I'll let them have that one. Sometimes like I'll pick a comment and I won't realize until I'm reading through it that you're commenting on to somebody else. So anyway, Marquis says Matt Ryan was 33 and 15 for the first 3 years of his career before they drafted Julio. I think somebody might have been making the argument that Julio made Matt Ryan, and that's There's many times as Julio's been out for a year or long stretches, and Matt Ryan has still consistently been the same quarterback all the way through. It's hard for me to understand that argument. I mean, he made Harry Douglas a 1,000-yard wide receiver, for God's sakes. Nothing against HD 83, but once he left here, he went back to standard definition. So, Ethan Elk says, how would you feel if somehow the Falcons drafted Chase at 4? Now, look, right out the rip, we've been talking about BPA. We're talking about, tight end, all this other stuff. But the strength that Terry even said right out the rip was the strength of this team is the wide receivers. And he would not be against adding to the strength.
Yep,
so,
that's right.
I mean, me personally, wide receiver would be the one position that I'd be like, I would shake my head because I wouldn't understand, Now, granted, I have been geared up, beaten, conditioned to figure out what we need and draft for need, right? I've never had a GM who was going to draft for BPA, or at least that's what he says, right? We're going to see if that's what it ends up being. But I don't know what it's like to live under a regime that drafts BPA. Because BPA would have got you Todd Gurley in that draft. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, it's going to be interesting. If they take Chase, I'm going to have to treat it just like I would if they'd have taken a QB. I'll be like, all right, this is how, is this how you going to build it? I'm just going to have to watch. I mean, I'm with Reggie's 2K says, we don't need a wide receiver at 4. I agree, Reggie. We don't need a wide receiver at 4.
But it just goes to show again, all the options
they are open. They are all on the table. That is what's making a this draft really interesting. Slim Kid says your cherry picking narrative doesn't prove Ryan can't make wide receivers. Oh, he's still arguing with somebody else. Lord have mercy. I need to stop getting in y'all's arguments. Y'all at me, okay? No, I'm just kidding. Don't actually start at. You don't have to at me. I was just making a joke. What's up, Falcon? What's going on, Falcon guys? I'm glad y'all are sitting in here tonight. That's cool. He says, "What's up, fellas? Just got on, digging the show. Has Toby gotten fired up yet? No, Toby stayed pretty calm.
No, I'm a little mellow tonight.
It might be the old school vibes of just me and you. Yeah. That might be having you keeping it mellow." So,
I think because we don't know what the Falcons are going to do at 4 has me a little mellow. It's a little bit more confusing.
Dude, it is like, you talk about looking through like murky waters. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I feel like we're doing right now. It's like, you ever set out on a field when the fog is like real thick and you trying to see the other side? Yeah. That's what I feel like we're at right now. Let's see.
Yeah, man.
Paul Mack says, what's up, P for P gang? What's going on, Paul? I'm glad you are here.
What's going on?
I'm glad you decided to join us. Oh, the champ is here. Sorry. The champ says there's a lot of good receivers, too. He had way later in the draft. There are some, there's a lot of, I feel like this draft is full of a lot of solid players. I feel like this is one of those drafts that we're going to look back in 10, 15 years and go, man, that guy had a heck of a career. Like, he may not be a superstar, but I really feel like this draft is full of like cornerstone, building block kind of players. Mm-hmm. And I'm all for it. I'm all for that. P for P, who are y'all set on for in the second round pick? Okay, we have finally started to move past the first round. Me, myself, if Trevon Moehrig or Richie Grant is sitting there at pick 35, I will run to the podium for him. Because that's who I want. I think the top of the second round, you give me a Javon Holland, a Richie Grant, a Trevon Moehrig, somebody give me a stud to put back in that secondary to go along with Terrell and Jalen Hawkins. Because that's the part that has me concerned right now. Is that safety room is depleted. And that has me super concerned. What about you? Who you want in the second round?
Trayvon is probably gonna be gone before you even get to the second round.
Don't dash my hopes there. Look now.
I'm sorry. Trayvon
Thank you. Okay, I appreciate it.
But I like Richie Grant.
I do like Richie Grant.
But I think I got to see that we may not have to worry about Richie Grant. But I want to talk about him right now. If I had to take a guy, I'm choosing Landon Dickerson, the center guard from Alabama. I hear what people saying about Matt Hennessy and stuff like that, but I really think Landon gives you that serious, gritty, nasty type of center that you would need up there in front of Matt Ryan. Smart, capable guy. Now, injuries has somewhat affected him. But since he's played at center, it hasn't been too bad as far as the injuries go. I would like to see him taken off the board. I think he would be a BPA player before Richie Grant. Now, that's just my opinion as far as the second round goes.
I like that. I like that as far as, getting because it was said that they were in the hunt for a center, in free agency, that was one of the, so there must be something about Hennessy that they're not necessarily too thrilled with. So, throwing that Dickerson kid, throwing him in the mix, man, I'd be down for that. Tony Wright, he won't say he thinks Najee Harris is going to be there in 35. I don't know, man.
Oh, well, if he is there, then
if he's there, take him. Look, if it ain't a safety, safety's up here for me. Running back is right here, okay? So if it ain't a safety, my next choice would be a running back. I would want a Javonte Williams, a Travis Etienne, one of those two in the second round. Najee Harris, if he's there.
This gonna be a tough draft.
Dude, who you telling? Who you talking to?
We're talking about it. We're realizing the Falcons are in a very tough situation right now. They have the pick of the litter in what they want to do. We don't know what they're going to do. May not be happy with
dude. Look, somebody's going to be mad.
They have choices out the yin-yang,
but they got choices, and that's what I'm loving. Yeah. The more I am digging in, more I'm digging into this draft, the more I'm digging into, different players, the more I'm listening to guys like, Daniel Jeremiah, even some of our other peers as far as guys who spend all their time paying attention to the draft. Those guys, I really am excited about this draft. I'm excited about what is the potential, whether it's a trade back. If you trade back and, because how are you going to say no if Washington or the Patriots come at you with, a second, a third, and then a first next year, and maybe even like a third next year, how you say no to that? You don't. You take it, and you use it to stockpile, right? Like, can you imagine having, 2 second-round picks this year?
Oh, but let me tell you, that would be sweet. Because that's where the true value, that second through the fourth round is where the true value is at. And remember, that's why I'm telling you, the Falcons need to figure out how they can get as many picks in those first 4 rounds as possible.
Yes,
because, I mean, to me, in my opinion, you get to 5 to 7, the value is not different to me.
I am right there with you.
It's a crapshoot.
Once you get past the fourth round, like, to me, the fourth round, I've broken it down plenty of times before. The fourth round is a solid backup potential starter. Once you get past the fourth round, it is, special teams, extreme backups at that point.
Yeah.
If you catch lightning, right? If you catch lightning in a bottle like Grady Jarrett in the 5th, or the unicorn Tom Brady in the 6th, how often does that happen? It doesn't. Okay.
Yeah.
So I personally would care less if they took all 3 of our 5th round and both of our 6th round and got back up into the 4th round multiple times.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where I'm sitting at, And so, let's see. Yeah, Speed Falcon says we have 3 5th-round picks. Exactly. You could take all 3 of them and get me back up into the 4th round, and I'd be happy as all get out. And so King says if the Falcons trade back with the Dolphins, they can still have a shot at Lance or Kyle Pitts and have an extra second. Something like that. Come on with it. You get me an extra second and you come away with a Lance or a Kyle Pitts, long as it ain't like a Mac Jones. I don't want Mac Jones, okay?
Mac Jones,
who? Exactly. Who? But no, I don't.
Hey, I'm going to tell you right now, if we traded back and landed at 20, you already know who my eye would be on, right?
Who's that?
Azeez Ojulari.
I was thinking Azeez Ojulari or Micah Parsons. You give me one of those 2 in the mid-round range and some extra picks, I'd take it all day long. All day long. Man, I didn't think we were going to do it, but we have bumped up over an hour. Yes, sir.
What?
We are sitting at 1 hour and 3. It is amazing. I told you. Man, I told you before we got started that I didn't know how tonight was going to go. I didn't think there was a ton to talk about. And look at us. We done talked about it for an hour.
Wow.
As we wrap up, there's nothing official yet, but the AJC is reporting that the Falcons are expected to sign Cordell Patterson. So they generally don't put out that kind of stuff without knowing for sure.
Yeah, they can't.
Right. Willie Doc says, "What up, fam? The original duo. Thanks for good stuff. We appreciate y'all hanging with us tonight. That was fun, Toby. Like I said, they got some old school vibes going on. I liked it. But let's go ahead and wrap this thing up. Y'all can find me on Twitter. Oh, speaking of Twitter, I got up over 300 followers today. What up? That is fast. I was laughing. And then old Marvin was like, I'm going to unfollow you so you get back down to 299. I was like, I appreciate you there, Marvin. But no. So, yeah, that was kind of cool. But, yeah, y'all can catch me at Twitter. I'm at Grimm1128, GRIMM1128. Toby?
Toby D 1991, and I got to give a shout out to Steve Weiss, who is now back with the Atlanta Falcons family.
Yeah, he's going to be contributing, so that was cool to see. No more Mr. Nice Guy says, "Come on, JR and Toby, you got 1 more hour. Now y'all gonna get the extended version draft night. Y'all better come with that same energy draft night because I'm gonna be here for 4 hours, 4 plus or whatever it is. So y'all better come with that awesome energy then." Because I'm going to need it. But anyway, you can catch, Jimmy and Mike, they'll be back on with us next week as, we draw even closer to the draft. You can catch them on Twitter. You can catch all of our stuff on YouTube. I put up a mock draft. We might do a live mock draft next week if that's something y'all like. We might give that a go. Anyway, as always, Falcons fans, rise up.
Rise up.
And